Ma'asumeen, distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, dear viewers at home from all around the world. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Imam Hussein Charities event, a program dedicated to the martyrdom of Imam Hassan al-Askari, our holy 11th Imam of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, the father of the awaited Savior, and a man who we revere, and a man who we can learn lessons from in his life. And of course, after his death, we take on the lessons that he left into our lives today. We have a very, very informative, a spiritual and emotional show on for you today. Just to let you know what's coming up on today's show. We're going to be joined by Sheikh Hurani, who will be joining us from Karbala. And we're going to speak about the life of the Imam Hassan al-Askari. We're also going to be joined by Sister Dua Makhzoumi, who is going to be discussing the role of women when it comes to the life of Imam Hassan al-Askari. And of course, we're going to be joined by our very own Sayyid Muhsin Shah, who is going to be discussing and reviewing the Muharram and Arbaeen campaigns and what we can look forward to when it comes to Imam Hussein Charity and their fantastic initiatives over the next 6 to 12 months. Before I begin, and essentially before we start the program, I wanted to reflect on something that is very dear to my heart. And reflect on an Arbaeen experience that I have sincerely never felt in a long, long time. 22 million people descended towards the holy land of Karbala to pledge their allegiance of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But let's just take a step back, because Arbaeen ziara is a significant religious observance for Shia Muslims. And it holds great cultural and spiritual importance. It takes place annually, 40 days after Ashura, the day when Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the grandson of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was martyred in the battle of Karbala. Arbaeen ziara is a time for Shia Muslims to reflect on the sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and the values he stood for, such as justice, courage, and standing up against tyranny. Pilgrims often express their love and grief for the Imam, strengthening their spiritual connection. The ziyara essentially is a show of unity, being one of the largest peaceful gatherings in the world, with millions of people participating. It transcends nationality, ethnicity, and language, promoting unity and solidarity among Muslims and even non-Muslims who join the procession, the julus. Ziyara has also become an opportunity for charity and humanitarian work. Pilgrims and volunteers set up food stalls, or better known as mawakibs, even medical clinics and other services to help fellow participants, the walkers, or we call it the mashaya, emphasizing the values of compassion and service. Now, to give you an understanding of the scale of the Arbaeen pilgrimage, I was reading an article a couple of weeks ago regarding Qatar and the fact that they spent close to $1 billion and prepped, I believe, about 10 years for the FIFA World Cup hosted last year. 4 million people visited that whole country. And the whole country was essentially flipped on its head to prepare the infrastructure and be able to host that amount of people over a 4-week period. Now, Karbala hosted 22 million people over a 3-week period, with the city itself being the size of, say, a quarter of London. There's obviously going to be challenges like crowd management, safety, and infrastructure, but it's safe to say the miracle of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein meant that 22 million people were fed, sheltered, and serviced. And the travesty, the absolute crisis in all of this, is that hardly any major Western news outlets covered this astonishing spectacle. After the break, inshallah, or after the small video that we want to show, we're going to be going towards Sayyid Muhsin, who's going to thank you, essentially, the dear viewers, where he is on a very special place. He's actually in the Imam Hussein TV studios in Karbala. He has a fantastic view and he has a message for you, dear viewers, who have contributed so generously towards the cause over the last 2 months. We're going to hear from Muhsin, and then after that, inshallah, we'll be hearing from our dear Sheikh regarding Imam Hassan al-Askari. We'll see you in a couple of minutes.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I am here in the holy city of Karbala al-Muqaddasa. Over my shoulder, you can see the golden domes of Imam Hussein and his brother Abu Fadl Abbas alayhi salam. This message is a thank you to all the viewers and all the supporters who donated during the Arbaeen period, supported the water campaign, the tabaruk campaign, allowing an orphan to do the ziara for his first time, and also the sponsored work for your marhum and for your loved ones. Thank you so much for making such an impact this Arbaeen. We couldn't have done it without your help, but the campaigns do not finish. Imam Hussein Charity is working throughout the whole year, whether we have projects for orphans, for widows, or for other people around the holy city of Karbala. Please continue to support, please continue to donate. If you want further information, visit us on www.imamhusseincharity.com. On behalf of all those who donated, I would like to recite a small ziyarah on your behalf on this day of Arbaeen, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum al-Hussein wa Ali ibn al-Hussein wa awlad al-Hussein wa ashab al-Hussein. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Welcome back. That was a very heartfelt thank you by Sayyid Muhsin Shah. We're going to hear from him, inshallah, later on in the show. However, now we have live from the holy city of Karbala a guest, a dear guest, Sheikh Muhammad Hurani, who has actually appeared on Imam Hussein Charity numerous times, dedicating small videos of wisdom. And now we have him live from the city of Karbala. Of course, just a forewarning that the internet issues could be something that it could stop our conversation with the Sheikh. However, we're going to try our best to get the Sheikh online. Sheikhna, can you hear me? Can you see me? Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Na'am, yes, I can hear you.
Fantastic. It seems like the sound is okay. Sheikhna, how are you? How's everything? How is Karbala, firstly?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Karbala is Jannatullah, as some of the narrations have indicated. So this land is a blessed land, is a peaceful land. And Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, the serenity over here is something that we can't explain.
Fantastic. And I'm sure that the numbers have obviously decreased after the Arbaeen period. What's the ziara like now?
The ziara is very quiet compared to how it was when the Arbaeen pilgrimage was taking place.
Of course.
However, the ziyarah to the Imam alayhi salam after the 10th of Muharram, and then once you reach the Arbaeen, after you've been walking from different places in Iraq, the feeling's amazing. The ziyarah is so heart-touching. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
Alhamdulillah. Well, inshallah, we are not deprived of the ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Sheikhna, I wanted to essentially get into the life of Imam Hassan al-Askari. Now, what we know and understand from the Imam is that he was buried in Samarra. However, that seems to be quite far away from where typically the Imams were buried, either in Medina or in, for example, Baghdad or Najaf or Karbala. Samarra seems to be quite a further apart. How did the Imam end up in Samarra? Please tell us, I guess, a very brief description of the journey of Imam Hassan al-Askari so we can learn a bit.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu ala al-Hussein wa ala Ali ibn al-Hussein wa ala awlad al-Hussein wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. When we speak about Imam Hassan al-Askari, as the Mullah explained, it's very out of the ordinary that we see that Imam al-Hassan al-Askari and his father Imam al-Hadi are buried in Samarra, away from the other Imams. And this goes to the life of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam. You see, the Ahlul Bayt, as Ziyara al-Jami' al-Kabira indicates, that the Ahlul Bayt are the family of Rasulullah. So there was a time, as we all have heard on the pulpit of Imam al-Hussein, that Banu al-Abbas rose up to seek the blood, or to avenge for the blood of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and defend their cousins. However, on the contrary is actually what took place. So when Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam was in al-Medina, the Abbasid Empire summoned him to Samarra. And the tragedies took place in Samarra with the demise of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam, where he was brutally poisoned. And then the life of Imam al-Askari alayhi salam. Now, there are two different opinions when it comes to Imam al-Askari and how he ended up in Samarra. The first one is that the Imam was born in Samarra, and the second opinion is that the Imam was born in Al-Medina and then he was taken to Samarra. But it all goes down to the Abbasids wanting to rule the Islamic Empire. And with the attention being, or the light shining on the Prophet's grandchildren, Imam al-Hadi and then Imam al-Askari, there was a danger for the Abbasids. So the Abbasids needed to bring in these imams and place them under house arrest. As we know, Imam al-Hassan al-Askari was placed under house arrest, and that's why his name al-Askari, the army base, really, if you were to translate it. And if you want to go into the history of Samarra, some historians narrate to us that Samarra didn't only become an army base at the time of Mutawakkil. However, it was an army base back in the Sassanian Empire, the Iranian Empire prior to the Muslim Empire coming up. The Iranian Empire used this place as an army base. So the reason why the Imam was kept in this place, so that the knowledge which was spread out to the people was maintained and wasn't able to go out as far as the Imams ﷺ wanted to do so. So that's a brief understanding why the Imam was placed under house arrest and in Samarra and how he got there.
Okay, fantastic. So what we know, obviously, in terms of the life of Imam Hassan al-Askari, although this is, 1436, 1436, 1437 years ago, it is quite a while ago, but we can always take lessons from the life of the Imam in this day and age. So in terms of course, the Imam Hussein Charity does a lot of work in and around the shrines, and I'd love to understand, in terms of the life of Imam Hassan al-Askari, in terms of any charitable acts that he did. Can you describe any charitable acts that he did that were noteworthy for us to be able to learn from?
Imam al-Hassan al-Askari, based on what history has narrated to us, we have a very, very confined amount of hadith that come out from the Imam alayhi salam. However, when we look into classical books, there are certain situations where Imam al-Askari really shines. For example, there were people from a Medina called Jurjan, and Imam al-Hassan al-Askari had one of the people come visit him after they had completed Hajj. And the Imam turns around and he says to him that, how are the people in Jurjan? So then the narrator, our master, they convey their salams to you. So then the Imam says, inshallah, it will take you a certain amount of days, and he mentions a number. And then he says, inshallah, on the day that you arrive to your Medina, to the city that you are in, I will see you there. Now someone is shocked. How? Imam Hassan al-Askari is in Samarra, he's under house arrest. How is it that Imam Hassan al-Askari is able to go to another Medina? This is from within the barakah, the mu'jizat, from within the miracles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that he has bestowed upon the Ahlul Bayt. So the Imam, as you would say, teleported from Samarra to that Medina to see the people, to seek what the people needed. If they needed help, if they needed anything, the Imam would give them. And if we refer to the book Madinatul Mahajiz, the city of miracles, there are numerous occasions where poor people come to the Imam alayhi salam, and the Imam, with his blessed hand, places it on the earth, he grabs it, he opens it, he gives it to the poor person, and from sand it turns to gold. SubhanAllah. So there are certain mawaqif, certain instances in the Imam's lives where they do these things to help and support one another. A few narrations that, if we look deeply into it, we can see how important it is to give charity and to help others, like Imam Hussein Charity has been doing. The Imam says that worship is not excessive fasting and prayer. However, worship is a lot of contemplation about Allah's command.
That is.
Just ask yourself, what exactly do we contemplate about? We have hadith from the Ahlul Bayt that say that you are not classified from within the circle of the Ahlul Bayt if you do not look out for your believing brothers around the world. So when Imam al-Askari says contemplate about how your brothers are doing, if they need help, and that financial help is very important. So the Imam, in other words, is saying you need to go out, you need to look, and you need to give, you need to support. And that is better than fasting and praying. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that we neglect that. The Imam is trying to say that it has the same importance. Giving out, helping others has the same importance as your salah and your fasting.
Absolutely correct. And I think one of the most amazing things that you've mentioned is that, you know, the Imams, all of them, and specifically Imam Hassan al-Askari, gave a massive importance to those who are less fortunate. Sheikhna, I think lastly, we can't mention Imam Hassan al-Askari without essentially mentioning his son, the awaited savior. So again, keeping within the theme of keeping within the theme of charitable acts, the Imam, what role do we have as Shia to enjoin good through charitable acts in relation to the Imam of our time?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala beautifully answers it in the Quran. He says that there is, Imam al-Sadiq was asked, in Al-Kafi you'll find this hadith. He says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers the question that was posed. There is nothing more beloved to Allah than giving money to the Imam. So Imam al-Sadiq then continues to say, for every dirham that you give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for every dirham, if you can say for every dollar or every pound that you give Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in paradise, will give you the reward of something as big as the mountain of Uhud.
Right.
So then Imam al-Sadiq uses an ayah that Allah uses in the Quran. And Allah says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, who of you will lend Allah a goodly loan? So every dollar that you have that you give in charity is a loan that Allah takes from you and He gives it back to you in paradise.
Inshallah.
How do we link this with Imam al-Mahdi? Very easily. A hadith mentioned in Bihar al-Anwar, the Imam says, "Ud'u bita'jil al-faraj, fa'inna fi dhalika farajakum." Continuously make dua for the faraj of the Imam. In that, you will see your own faraj. Giving in the way of the Imams, alayhimus salam, are what help the Ahlul Bayt. And that's why the easiest way to get into the heart of the Imam is giving a charity in his name. And in the name of our 12 Imams, alayhimus salam. Why? Because then this charity becomes even more blessed. And if it's in the name of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, it has a higher importance and a more significant impact on your lives.
Inshallah. Sheikhna, I guess just from a more personal experience, you live in Karbala or Najaf, or you're just visiting?
Unfortunately not. I don't live here. I live in Australia, but alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me the tawfiq to be here for about 2 months, alhamdulillah, or just less than that.
Just from your experience and walking around the shrines and in and around the city area, poverty is strife across the whole of Karbala and Najaf, and I wanted to get your thoughts, and from a personal perspective, do you notice actually what I wanted to say is, do you notice a difference between those who are underprivileged, those who are living in poverty, their mindset, their mood, their attitudes, from the difference between when it is a season, like Arbaeen season, where there are mawakib and they're giving out tabaruk and food and water and shelter, compared to non-season where maybe those amenities aren't really available to them? Is there a big difference between that? Can you see that on the streets? Do you notice a lot of people who are underprivileged around?
Very unfortunate. It's quite unfortunate, yes. The poverty in Iraq is very unfortunate. Even though Arbaeen came and Arbaeen fed everyone, this miraculous table spread was extended from Basra to Karbala. However, we need to look at another aspect. We need to look at it from another aspect. Poverty, people were able to benefit from an Arbaeen. However, the poverty is still there. And unfortunately, you can see it on how they look, the way they act. Just granting them a cup of water or buying them a meal really does have an impact on their life. So someone that comes from a different country, not living in Iraq, someone that is privileged to live somewhere else and is able to have a stable income, it does really break your heart, and it does really motivate you that any way that I can give to help this community, anything that I can do to help our Iraqi brothers and sisters, then we need to be able to do that. We need to give them, and we need to help and support them like we would help and support our families.
Fantastic. Really, really appreciate your time, Sheikhna. Any last words to the viewers, those who are maybe teetering on the edge of, shall I donate, shall I not, shall I contribute, shall I not? Are they even benefiting from this show? Anything that you'd want to mention to them as a last point?
Every dollar you give, as Imam Sadiq says, Allah is taking a loan from you. Don't think that I'm losing this money. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that is taking the loan. You know, when you go to the bank, you want the bank to give you money. Allah Ta'ala is saying, can you give me money? And in return, I will give you a place in paradise. Its size is like the mountain of Uhud. So give as much as you can and strive to help those, especially help those that are supporting the poor people. Imam Hussein TV charity. Help, give out as much as you can. For inshallah, it will help you, it will protect you, and it will protect your families. As we know that sadaqah, charity, turns off the heat from the hellfire.
Inshallah. Sheikh, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Inshallah, many, many more times that we'll be blessed with your presence, inshallah, maybe physically in the studio here. But I believe that, you know, you're halfway across the world, or actually across the world, not even halfway. But inshallah, very, very soon we'll get to see you here, inshallah. And thank you so much for your time.
Inshallah. May Allah bless the team, inshallah. Wassalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam. So that was Sheikh Muhammad Hurani. Many thanks for him and his time. And inshallah, he prays for us and the channel and for you, dear viewers at home from the holy city of Karbala. We're going to take a small break, but after the break, we're going to be joined by Sister Dua Makhzoumi, who's going to be discussing the role of women, specifically during the life of Imam Hassan al-Askari. Don't go anywhere. Inshallah, we'll see you in a couple of minutes. In the tragic month of Muharram, one of the most significant acts is the provision of tabaruk and niyaz for Husseiniyyas worldwide. In a world plagued by hunger and the merciless killing of Shia Muslims on a daily basis, it becomes our duty to give to those in need. Countless Husseiniyyat Imam Bargas and centers cook meals to nourish their local communities as the masses gather to remember Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And do you know what? The orphans and widows absolutely cherish it. During this time of year, hundreds of thousands of orphans, widows and people living in poverty rely on niyaz and tabarruk. Just imagine the profound impact a single plate of food, a glass of water or a bag of fruit can have. These simple items can nourish a hungry child, bring comfort to a struggling family, and even inspire a brighter future. However, we cannot do this alone. We need your help to create a lasting impact this Muharram. Join us in this collective effort to provide basic necessities that every human deserves. Make your niyaz count and donate your tabarruk now so that it can reach the Hussainis and the Zainabis of today. Welcome back, dear viewers at home. Dear viewers, you are watching, if you're just joining us now, you're watching Imam Hussein Charities live I wouldn't call it a fundraiser. We are commemorating the martyrdom of Imam Hassan al-Askari. We are highlighting and making aware the fantastic projects of Imam Hussein Charity. It has been an absolutely successful campaign across Arbaeen and Muharram for Imam Hussein Charity. And we want to share, essentially, the good news with you to let you know that your contributions have made an impact. They have made a change in the lives of many, specifically in Iraq, across the servants of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the Zuwar of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein. So essentially this program, first and foremost, is to commemorate the martyrdom of Imam Hassan al-Askari. But before I welcome my second guest for today, Sister Dua, I wanted to mention that one of the projects that the charity has worked on, which is quite dear to my heart and quite fantastic, actually. It's to provide a first-time ziara experience for those who are less fortunate. What I mean, most of the people think and are under the impression that the whole of Iraq are able to, and it's easy for them to just get up and go towards Karbala. It's actually not. There is certain financial constraints on certain people being able to travel to Iraq. And even if they get there, sometimes they might think, where would I stay? How would I eat? Of course, for about 3-4 weeks, the Zuwar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam are fed, they're sheltered, they're quenched, their thirst is quenched, and everything is given to them. However, there are those out there who haven't got the means to be able to leave their homes and go towards Karbala for a number of specific reasons. One of those reasons, actually, is that they have a livelihood. They live off such a small means that if they were to leave their homes for 3 weeks, their families would be affected. And so what we did was we went and specifically hand-selected those who were less fortunate, and we ensured that we gave them a first-time ziara experience. We have a small video that I would love for you to see, which is a bit of a review of that first-time experience for those who are less privileged and orphans. We'll see you in a couple of seconds.
مسحوق منو شايف منو سامع ميت عايش بكل زمن وسهامه شافنه صدره في مضيف الحسن منو شايف منو سامع ميت عايش بكل زمن وسهامه شافنه صدره في مضيف الحسن للضايع للخايف صارت كربلاء الوطن للضايع للخايف صارت كربلاء الله منو شايف منو سامع ميت عايش بكل زمن وسهامه شافنه صدره في مضيف الحسن للضايع للخايف صارت كربلاء.
Welcome back, and that was footage of those orphans who experienced a first-time ziyarah, and we didn't hold back. Essentially, we gave them the shelter, we gave them food, water, everything that they needed to have at their fingertips so that they're able to really benefit from the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. You saw blankets, you saw places where they could sleep, you saw the food, you saw even the tea. So inshallah we can continue these blessed initiatives in the future, maybe next year, with your generous contributions. Now it's part of the show where we are once again casting our minds towards Imam Hassan al-Askari, and here in the studio live I'm delighted to be joined by Sister Dua Maghzoumi. Assalamu alaikum, Sister Dua.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
How are you? Hope all
I'm
is
good,
well, inshallah.
thank you. Allah ajurakum.
Inshallah. So, look, first and foremost, I spoke to the Sheikh quite earlier, and we discussed essentially how Imam Hassan al-Askari ended up in Samarra, because we know that most of the Imams, they were martyred and they died in and around the same area, so Najaf, Karbala, Baghdad, or Medina. But Samarra seems to be quite far away from all of those cities. So, aside from that, at the shrine of Imam Hassan al-Askari in Samarra, we're told that the resting place of the Imam's, I believe, auntie. So either Imam Mehdi's auntie. So it was Imam Hassan Askari's auntie.
Imam Hassan Askari's auntie.
The Imam's auntie, Sister Hakima, and wife, Sister Narjis, are also in the same resting place. Can you tell us about the role of Imam Hassan Askari's wife and also his auntie in the life of Imam Imam Hassan Askari?
Imam Hassan Askari's auntie, her name is Fatima, but she's لقبت بالحكيمة because she was very wise. She's the daughter of Imam al-Jawad alayhi salam. And a lot of people don't know that because we don't talk much about her. But she had a very great role in the lifetime of the Imams, all four of them. She lived in the lifetime of the Imam al-Jawad, her father. She lived in the lifetime of Al-Imam al-Hadi, her brother. In the lifetime of the Imama of Al-Imam, her nephew, Al-Hassan Askari, and Al-Imam al-Mahdi, she was present during his birth.
She was.
And she was the one who helped Sayyidah Narjis give birth. So she had a very great role. Even Al-Imam al-Hadi instructed her to educate Sayyidah Narjis, the mother of the Imam, in fiqh, deen, religion, Islam, and morals of akhlaq. So
No, I was going to say because Sayyidah Narjis was quite new to the religion in a sense, right?
Yes, so he instructed her. So she was a alima, she was a hakima. So she had a great role. One of her role was to deliver the Imam al-Mahdi. The narration says that she's the first one who held the Imam, and she covered him with a cloth. She took him to her nephew, Al-Imam al-Hassan Askari, and back to the mother. And also she had a very great role. She was Safirat al-Imam al-Mahdi. So she was the one who would see the Imam and take petitions and signatures and go back to people. So they wouldn't see the Imam, but she would go back and forth. The narration says that 3 days after Al-Imam al-Mahdi was born, she says, اشتقت إلى ولي الله. I missed the representative of Allah. So I went to Imam al-Hassan al-Askari's house. I opened the room of Imam al-Mahdi. I couldn't see him. I couldn't hear his voice. So I was shy to ask Imam al-Hassan al-Askari, where is Imam al-Mahdi? So badarani fi jawab, he answered me. He said to me, Ya amma, oh auntie, in Allah, Allah had secured him. Wahama, Allah had hidden him, and you will not see him. You have to hide that he is born from all my Shi'as until إذا غيبني الله, when Allah takes me and I'm deceased, then you are the one who's responsible to inform الثقات من الشيعة, the trustworthy of my Shia, that he was born, because she's the evidence, right?
Of course.
And he said there must be a maktub بينك وبينهم. So write down a note to the ثقات من الشيعة that I was present, and I'm the one who delivered Al-Imam al-Mahdi. And that was her responsibility. So she had a very great responsibility.
That's a massively significant role for her to be essentially the trust and the representative of the Imam in a sense, and also the evidence of him being born. So you have to be like, this is almost like a stamp of approval by the Imam to tell her, listen, you're the person that's going to be telling everyone. That is fantastic. I actually didn't know many of her life in terms of that significance. So, look, I mean, just to bring it back to this day and age, we see women unfortunately go through a lot of hardship. Either they are alone because they are made widows due to poverty, due to war, whatever the circumstances may be. But often is the case sometimes where a family who's living in poverty, the woman and her role within that is quite significant as well. How do they support their husbands? Because they must go through so much in terms of trying to be supportive, at the same time understanding that their means are very, very small. But what can they do essentially to help their husbands in those roles?
There are three ways that a woman can help her husband in poverty. There's one like Lady Khadija. So if you are some women who are wealthy and your husband's living in poverty, crisis, can't find a job, maybe a woman who comes from a very wealthy family, who they give her inheritance, whatever way it was, we have Lady Khadija alayhi salam. When she gave and helped the Prophet, it didn't lower his status, it gained her status. So that's one of helping if you are someone wealthy. If you're someone who lives in poverty and you want to help, you have like Fatima Zahra, and you also have things that bring rizq. So Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, she never complained. 3 days would pass by, she wouldn't eat. She would accept it. Whatever the man offers on the table, alhamdulillah wa shukr. So we can take her as a role model. Or we have things that bring rizq. For example, as-salah fi waqtiha. Pray on time. Music deprives rizq. We have like narrations from the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. He says that if you want لن تفتقر أبدا, you don't want to see poverty ever in your life, read the last in Surah Al-Talaq, the last 2 words, and the verse 3 of Surah Al-Talaq. So verse 2, the last two words, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ, and then the verse 3, يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا وَيَرْزُقْهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبْ وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا, 3 times after each salah.
Pause for a second. Repeat that last bit, the last two in the.
So Surah Al-Talaq,
Yeah.
verse 2, but not like this, the last 3 words, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ, because verse 2.
Okay, verse 2, the last three. وَمَنْ يَتَقِ اللَّهِ.
Yeah. يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. And
يَجْعَلْ
then verse
لَهُ
3.
مَخْرَجًا is where?
That's why I don't remember. But the last 3 words, I think, وَمَنْ يَتَّقِ اللَّهِ, and then verse 3, all of it. 3 times.
So it's still technically all one line, but there's a break because it's.
Yeah.
I thought that whole we're
No,
under
it's
the
long.
impression that it's one whole ayah, but it's not.
no.
So وَمَنْ يَتَقِ اللَّهِ, then there's a pause.
Yeah.
For an
For a
ayah.
third one ayah.
For
Yeah.
okay, and then it says يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا. So the next ayah starts with يَجْعَلْ لَهُ مَخْرَجًا.
Yeah, وَيَرْزُقْهُ
I
مِنْ حَيْثُ.
see.
He says, read it 3 times after each salah. And I've tried it. لَن تَفْتَقِرْ أَبَدًا. Like you won't
Subhanallah.
see poverty. So there are ways like in dua, in amal billah, in praying on time, because some people don't pray on time and they
Right.
don't realize that when you don't follow Ahl Bayt's rules, we fall through calamities, poverty, but we don't know it's because of us. So Allah says, pray on time, I'll give you rizq.
Yeah.
We keep it 2 hours later, 3 hours later. Some people don't even pray. For example, music, it causes, that's one example, it causes poverty. So there are things that we can help support with, either being like Lady Fatima, Lady Khadija, or...
Okay.
Yeah.
So did you mention there was a third one, or was that all 3? I think
No, that was 3.
That
yeah.
was all 3. Okay,
Yeah.
so I was mixed up with the numbers. Okay, fantastic. And look, as I mentioned to the Sheikh, we can't mention Imam Hassan Askari without mentioning the Imam. You've already done so. In terms of enjoining good, na'mal bil ma'roof, shall we say, through charitable acts, in relation to the Imam of our time, what role do we have in all of this? Ashia.
Yeah, we have a big role. We usually give sadaqah in the name of the Imam, even though the Imam doesn't need that sadaqah, but it comes back to us. And it's a way of showing a connection to the Imam spiritually, that, we care. Because Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, he says that, من دعا لإمام زمانه دعا الإمام له فطوبى لمن دعا له الإمام. So when you pray for the Imam will pray back for you. So if you give sadaqah, it's a way of praying for the Imam. For example, you give sadaqah to the poor, to the needy, in the name of the Imam, like if you're going through calamities, will pay for sadaqah for you. So he'll pray for you, for instance. And a way of waiting for the Imam is to help the poor, because that's his role, to make everyone equal. So I know when I first got married, me and my husband keep a sadaqah box. And for a whole year, before like IHC, Imam Hussein Charity, for a whole year we'd keep change. For a whole year, we opened it, and it was like not even 100 pounds.
Okay.
So then we're like, and we wait to go to Iraq to find someone trustworthy to give, so what we did in our mind is that every day we'd wake up in the morning, pay sadaqah in our minds, because it's on digital.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll say if we financially are not doing well, £1 each day. If we're doing well, £2, £3 each day. So let's say every month, £30, that's a must. Imam Hussein Charity, send it every month. So that is something good, because if you have double to give, why not? But it goes quickly. I was like, we used to save it for a whole year, and the sadaqah no one uses it, and then it's not even £100. So keep in mind, for Imam al-Mahdi, reappearance, in his name, in the name of Sayyidah Narjis and Imam al-Askari, keep in mind, you wake up every morning, and you say, I'm going to give £1 sadaqah to the Imam for this and this. So at the end of the month, just send it to IHC, and that's it's a different way than putting sadaqah.
I wanted to ask actually, aside from have you been on? We're gonna kind of flip the subject a bit to more ziara related. Have you been on ziara recently?
Recently, no, but
Arbaeen. Have you been on Arbaeen?
yeah, Arbaeen.
You have been on Arbaeen.
Yeah.
Okay, I've always wanted to know from a female perspective, what is the experience like?
It's very amazing.
Yeah.
It's a nice experience. The first time I was shocked, wow, all these people, the serving. How did Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam and the daughters walk all that? Because I couldn't.
Yeah.
When I first began from Najaf, I was like, I don't want to cheat. But I walked maybe to Amud 200, and I just collapsed. So I cheated and I went to like Khan al-Nus, like
it's not just, I mean, just for the video viewers, even if you take a satuta or a taxi, it's not cheating, just so you know. I've done it many times because you know, people have circumstances, but you skipped a few polls.
Yeah, I skipped a few, and I just cried because I was like, how did Ruqayya do it?
Yeah.
How did Sukaina do it?
Yeah.
And they were beaten, and the heads were there, and the trauma. They had no food.
And in terms of the actual shrine itself, was it quite complicated to get into?
I realized there was like things that you can do haram there, because there was no division between men and women, and it was only for men. And we're there from Canada, like I was from Canada, and I just, my first time, I wanted to touch the grave, and my dad was like, no way, this is all men, you have to stay there. And I was crying like, this is not fair. But then you can't, because the majority are men. So I was like, why don't they do like a division, you know? So I don't know, but that was the only.
Inshallah, God gives you the opportunity to go to ziara again. I would love to give you the floor for any last thoughts in regards to the dear viewers, charity, women, Imam Hassan al-Askari. Any last thoughts that you have for the charity?
For the charity, you know, always think of the poor and help the needy, those who are in need, in the name of the Imam. It brings you closer to the Imam, and it makes you like this connection. Also, don't forget that we need to wake up every morning and live as if we think of the Imam. Some people say, I wait for him, but they don't think of him. So like, think of the Imam like when you see poor people, charity work, when you go out from your house, every day in every lifestyle, like make ta'ayish, you know, like live with him, that he is part of our lives, not just like we say we're waiting for him, but we don't yet.
Sister Dua Maghsoumi, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. You've given us a lot of food for thought, some insightful facts that I didn't know, and I'm sure the viewers didn't know as well. So many thanks for imparting the knowledge of Imam Hassan Askari and Sayyida Hakima and Sayyida Narjis to us all. May Allah bless you and your family. Please continue to donate to any charitable cause, specifically Imam Hussein Charity would be fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Sister Dua. So now turning back our attention to the show for today. We are going to be joined by Sayyid Muhsin Shah later on in the show. From now until the end of the program, we're going to be discussing Imam Hussein Charity's absolutely fantastic initiatives and a bit of a review and a report from the last 2 months when it comes to Muharram and Arbaeen. But before we do, we're going to go to a small break, so inshallah we'll see you in a couple of minutes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome back, dear viewers. If you're just joining us, you are watching Imam Hussein Charity live on Imam Hussein TV 3, coming to you live from the city of London. The time now is 9:15 or 9:14 UK time. Coming up on the last 15 minutes of this show, we're going to be speaking to Sayyid Muhsin Shah. However, one of the fantastic initiatives that they had, we're going to be speaking everything about the charity now across Muharram and Arbaeen. Now, just to give you a bit of a recap, I have some notes here of what essentially happened in Muharram and Arbaeen. So I am going to speak about the bottles and the book in a second. However, there is something that was mentioned, and Sister Dua Maghsoumi mentioned something quite interesting in the sense that her as a family, they would donate to Imam Hussein Charity. Now, one of the ways that we've made it absolutely simple for you to be able to donate at the end of the month, the end of the week, the end of the day, the end of the year is an app. It's called Sadaqa app, and if you can search literally SADAQA, the details are on your screen. You can download the app, and it gives you all this fun and interactive way to be able to donate and contribute to the cause of Imam Hussein charity. Right? That's number one. Number two, myself and Sayyid Muhsin were present in Karbala, and we were able to poll 1,114, I believe, is the poll where Imam Hussein Media Group had their station. And myself and Sayyid Muhsin, we appeared, I think, twice on the show to be able to discuss the Zuwar of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and them being quenched, them being fed, them being sheltered by you, the dear followers, dear viewers of Imam Hussein charity, who were able to contribute. We were able to give back what you gave to us, we gave to them, in order for them to be able to be served. So we're going to go to a very small video. Literally, I think it's about a minute long. And then after that, we're going to be welcoming Sayyid Muhsin Shah. Whether it's in the studio or online, you're going to have to wait to see.
الطفوف والكل يشوف عدد الالوف يمك صفر شهن وشجاع امرك مطاع ألمك حسام دمهم حبر هلا بالكفيل هلا بالاصيل هلا باللي يقول كعب الخدر عندي الله عالبيت قمر الخفوف والكل يشوف عدد الالوف يمك صفر شهن وشجاع امرك مطاع قلمك حسام دمهم حبر هلا بالكفيل هلا بالاصيل هلا باللي يقول كعب الخدر عندي الله الله انفاس انت للقوه الاصيله انفاس للمخيم والعاقل.
Welcome back, dear viewers. That was the last person that you saw in that video was Sayyid Muhsin. Unfortunately, Sayyid Muhsin couldn't be in the studio here, but we still had to hear from him. We still had to have him on the show, and I am delighted to be joined by Sayyid Muhsin Shah over Zoom or online. So he should be appearing on my screen, if I'm not mistaken, in the next couple of seconds. But can you hear me, Sayyid Muhsin? Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. I don't know if you can hear me or if you can see me.
I cannot hear you in my ear yet, but I'm sure they're going to change that very soon. Sayyid, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid. How are you?
Alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Thank you very much. I am actually in Manchester right now.
Okay.
I'm at a mosque. I've been away for work and things like that. Very well. There's a majlis going to be starting in about 20 minutes or so. So, yeah, that's why I've come.
All right,
So,
brilliant. So
inshallah-
our timing is great then.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I've found a
Fantastic.
little quiet area and with a decent background.
Okay.
Then, yeah, inshallah, we'll be commemorating the tragedy and the death of Imam Hassan Askari, inshallah,
Yeah.
later on tonight.
Yeah, so look, I want to first start off, Sayyid Muhsin, by getting a review from you, because you were there in Muharram, if I'm not mistaken, doing a lot of
Yes, I was.
the charity work, and also you were there for Arbaeen. But I want to get just a very quick synopsis in about a minute or two regarding your experiences and how you felt when it comes to the Imam Hussein charity's endeavors in Iraq, specifically in Karbala, across Muharram and Arbaeen.
So, yes, I was there in Muharram time. Muharram in Karbala was my first time in Karbala for Muharram, and it was an absolutely phenomenal experience. I think everyone should go at least once in their lifetime. That you hear all of these tragedies of the land of Karbala, but to be there, Imam Hussein would have slept, or whether he would have prepared, where he would have addressed the people. This is where Tila Zainabiyya, Sayyida Zainab Salaam alayha, she watched the whole war take place and so forth, and the massacre. And it's just really, really connecting with, Karbala and those who were martyred in Karbala. It's a phenomenal experience. Imam Hussein Charity, who we both work for and do a lot of projects with. During the Muharram time, there was so many people coming, and it was just an honor for us to be able to give you guys the opportunity to get involved with majalis, to get involved with giving tabaruk, to get involved with helping orphans and widows and so forth. And it was just making sure that the flag of Abu Abdullah Hussein continued to fly high, and it was everyone getting involved in some sort of majlis and some sort of azah. But to be a part of the azah in Karbala is just something out of this world. And alhamdulillah, thank you to all those who donated and gave us the opportunity to do that.
Sayyidina, you were there on the ground. You were with Misbah al-Hussein, the other kind of organization that was carrying out the work of Imam Hussein Charity. So what were what were they like to be able to deal with and essentially work with?
They were really, really nice. They have been working in Karbala a lot longer than Imam Hussein Charity has. So they have all the logistics, all the know-how, all the volunteers, everything to a T, you could say. The Misbah al-Hussein can get things done within, what would take us a week takes them hours, because they've got so much support, they've got so many volunteers, but the most is that they've got so many avenues and good relations with people that is so much more easier for them to get things done. And for us, collect the money, go to the wholesaler, buy the water, give it to someone to distribute. They phone the wholesaler straight away, I'm coming, get this many bottles ready, we'll sort out payment later on.
Wow.
And then things like that, like that is they get things done straight away.
Sayyidina, I wanted to ask you a bit, maybe if it's a difficult question, but a lot of the viewers, a lot of those who contribute, a lot of those who are kind of umming and ahhing about donating, the question that arises is how much of my donation is going to go directly to those who are in need?
It
Sorry
is
to put you on
a
the spot.
fantastic question. No, of course not. And this is one of the most unique things about our charity here at Imam Hussein Charity, is that 100% of your donation goes towards the cause. Whichever campaign you are donating to, whether it is for orphans, widows, whether it is for the sick, whether it is to rebuild someone's house, or for medicine, or for iftar package, for tabaruk, for majalis, khatib, whatever you're paying towards, 100% of your money goes straight towards the campaign. Imam Hussein TV has a separate budget to pay for admin fees and salaries and so forth for those people who are working for the charity, and 100% of your money goes straight to those in need.
Fantastic. So that's Muharram Arbaeen. I think you hosted, a couple of programs for Imam Hussein Charity in the heat near the Zuwar. What was that like?
You tell me, you were there. You were with me.
I was only there, as a guest. I went out, did my own thing. It was hectic, but tell me from your side.
I thought it was a phenomenal experience as always. This Arbaeen was absolutely busy, as it probably had the most people we've ever seen before. And to be able to serve and to be able to give you guys the Arbaeen experience from your homes, being your gateway to Karbala and your gateway to the Mashaya, was a great honor for us. And Imam Hussein Charity, the work that we're doing during Arbaeen time, we were discussing, there was 22 million people, and then it was like each person drinks about 10 cups of water, so that's like 220 million cups of water, and then it was divided into like 60, so how many boxes you can make, and it was something like 20 million boxes that was required for one day in Iraq to quench the thirst of the Zawar and so forth. So without a doubt, there is a big demand for water, for food, and for the Mawakibs in order for them to. Oh, the lights are just gone there. Give me a second. Let me see if I can get it back on. If not, there we go. Sensors.
Oh, was it a sensor light?
Yeah, it's a sensor light.
I thought that.
What are they doing? It's all right. I want to carry on, continue anyway, because we are professionals at Imam Hussein TV.
Right.
So,
I did say that you're not in Iraq, but it seems like like the light is.
So, can we get the light back? Thank you. There we go. We're back on now. Okay. So, as I was saying, having, first, being able to give that much water to the Zawar that require the water, it was really a challenge. Not impossible, just a little difficult and so forth. And thank you to all those who donated towards the Mawakib, to the charity, for the water, for the food, rice, meat, for the Khatib to recite, for the Mullah to come and recite. So people have small majalis all over Arbaeen and so forth. It couldn't have been done without you. And the amount of thawab and ajr that you guys are going to get just for quenching the thirst of someone. By the way, it's about 2,000 Iraqi dinar for a box of 60 water cups. 60 water, let's say one person takes one each, right? Let's just say that's 60 people, for the price of £3.
Yeah.
£3-4, you have quenched the thirst of 60 zawar walking towards Imam Hussein.
Yeah.
Inshallah, you know, you're part of that ajr and thawab that they get.
Yeah. Sayyidina, I was going to say, look, very lastly, in terms of the future projects for Imam Hussein Charity, what do they have on the horizon?
Again, we'll be working with orphans, with widows. I think, you know, during Ramadan, we had this thing about teaching someone a career, new skill set, and so forth. I think that will be really, really, you know, popular. And I think that is the way to go forward, that we're going to try and allow those who are in need, those who are impoverished, for them to try and create their own wealth and create their own salaries and so forth. So that slowly, everyone can, you know, like a chain reaction, like a circle. You keep training and training and training, and slowly we'll be able to eradicate, you know, poverty in Iraq and Kashmir.
Inshallah. When are you back in London, Sayyidina?
Sunday night, I believe.
Sunday night.
So it's
Are you gonna
Friday
be around
night
on
now.
Monday?
Inshallah.
Okay,
I hope so.
inshallah.
I think so, yeah.
In any case, Sayyidina, it's been a pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much
Always a
for
pleasure, Mr. Ali
spending
Father.
your
Thank you,
time.
No problem.
Any last thoughts?
Anytime. Thank you, Allah. Just, you know, we are coming towards the end of grievances and sorrow, and it is strange, but at the same time bittersweet, that we began our sorrow with the black flag of Abu Abdullah Hussein, and that we end our sorrow in memory of the Imam of our time and his father. And I think it's so really, you know, important that we give some time towards the Imam of our time and the struggles that he's been going through. And then inshallah, Monday night, we can raise our red flags in a different way, inshallah.
Right. Thank you very much for your time, Sayyid Muhsin Shah, the ever-present Sayyid Muhsin, who is constantly on our screens, and the fantastic work that you do for Imam Hussein Charity, inshallah, does not go unnoticed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, the Imams, and of course, importantly, Imam al-Mahdi ajallahu ta'ala farajahu sharif. I just want to say, look, people come into your life, Imams come into your life at times where you didn't expect them. And so what happens is that when you don't expect something to happen and you've never experienced it before, so I'm talking about specifically, you know, things like donating, things like contributing, things like being inspired to change, because Sayyid Muhsin mentioned it, Sheikh, and also dua. We're always inspired to change, but sometimes you could inspire yourself, or you might wait for something to happen in your life, or someone to come across your life, or maybe an imam to impact your life in a way where your life has changed. And when it has changed, you've never experienced that kind of change before, and you don't know what it was specifically that gave you that change. And we want you, dear followers, dear viewers at home, to understand that we appreciate every single time that you touch our lives, that you contribute, that you give such from such a pure heart that you guys have at home, the dear viewers that are watching. You have such a big heart. Share that with the world. We know that you can contribute to making a positive change in our lives. A person that has had a positive change in our lives is Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, and specifically there's a young girl who was quite popular on Instagram. She's actually got the most popular views on our Instagram channel. Her name is Haneen, and she describes her love to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. But before I go, I'd love to thank you, the dear viewers, for your contribution. I did have, I wanted to mention that, you know, there is initiatives like the Husseini Teardrop and of course the bottles, which is all fantastic work. But I leave you with our dear Haneen, who describes her love for Imam Hussein alayhi.
مجارينا يعني فايحة لفوق. اي والله، ورجال بزمان عايفة صار 5 سنوات.
عندكم أطفال؟
عندي 3 بس يشوفون هاي يعني حالتنا ويساعدونا، يسوي لها البلوك الشماري منهم. واريد يعني شي مشروع اشتغل بيه، يعني خياطة هيك. والله مال اليوم خليها باكر، إذا زاد عندنا نحمي عادي يعني. والله هو تزوج وجابها هنا قعدها يمي 6 شهور وشالوا. صارت مشاكل بينه وبيناتهم وشالت. قالت أنا أخذه منك، أخذته هي وبنتي، راحوا للحلة، هسه قاعدين بالإيجار. هسه حاليا جاي يطالب بالبيت، يريد له البيت لو أتنازل عن النفقة.
يعني حتى هذا البيت هو
يريده
اللي ما
هذا.
يقدر أحد إنسان يعيش بيهم أيضا يطالبكم بيه إنه طلعوا
أي
عنده.
هسه حاليا يريده. يعني هسه إحنا لا طلعت أنا وجهادي وين نقعد؟
ما عندكم أي مكان يقويكم؟
لا ما عندنا أي مكان، بس الإيجار. إيجار أنا ما أقدر الإيجار. والله أثاثنا هسه ناس جابت لي بلازما، جابت لي مجمدة، عندي ثلاجة لا بس تبرد. هسه زين هي مجمدة.
يعني أنا ألاحظ الباب أنتم حتى الباب شادين خيط.
اي
يعني
لين ما
الباب
كلها
قفلتوا؟
مكسره البيبان. لا هذا عود الاستقبال ما نقدر نقعد بيه لان ماي الرطوبه كلها قام يطب جوه.
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف خلقه وخاتم أنبيائه وسيد رسله نبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المطهرين المكرمين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من أول يوم ظلمهم إلى قيام يوم الدين. قال الله العظيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم: قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إلا المودة في القربى. آمنا بالله. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Respected viewers, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In the previous episode, we discussed one of the most critical sermons delivered in the history of Islam, and that was the sermon known as Al-Khutbatul Fadakiyya by the Sayyidatun Nisa, the great lady Fatimatul Zahra salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha. As a prelude, as an introduction and the background, we discussed the surrounding environment and the situation of the time in this regard. The narration, of course, is found in many books of hadith, such as the book of Al-Ihtijaj by Sheikh Al-Tusi and others. We come forward and we find the circumstances or the way that this great lady emerged to Masjid al-Nabawi has a number of important areas for us to reflect upon. لَاثَتْ خِمَارُهَا عَلَى رَأْسِهَا. She ensured that the hijab was full on her head. وَاسْتَمَلَّتْ بِجِلْبَابِهَا. That she made sure that the jilbab was completely covering her body and was compatible with the dress code of hijab. تَطَأُ ذُيُولُهَا. Now this is important. It highlights that the hijab she was wearing was so loose and long that it was long, and therefore she had to somehow, it was being dragged on the ground. It was being dragged because of the fact that it was quite wide and loose. This has been mentioned specifically as a reminder, of course, to our respected sisters when it comes to the Islamic dress code of hijab. The dress code of modesty, chastity, honor, the dress code of identity and protection. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has indeed honored our sisters when it comes to hijab, which is defined as the covering of the female's body from top to toe, except the face and the hands up to the wrists, which do not necessarily have to be covered. But the rest have to be covered, and it must be loose, it must not be transparent, it must not be attractive deliberately, it must not be tight. So this dress code that is characterized by the great lady Fatimatul Zahra salawatullahi wa salamuhu alayha, this hijab that has been emphasized in the Holy Quran, we have this great role model and her daughter Sayyida Zainab, peace and blessings be upon her, who fought for hijab during the Battle of Karbala and the aftermath, and both were the champions of this Islamic obligation, which is clearly ordained in the Holy Quran. As an example, therefore, when we look at the sermon of Fadak, it reminds us to keep this flag of hijab high, not to be deterred by any attempts in the West or anywhere else to question this particular dress code. This important obligation, as the Quran says, ذَلِكَ أَدْنَى أَن يُعْرَفْنَ فَلَا يُؤْذَيْنَ. It is better that the Muslim sisters, the ladies, the females are identified through hijab so that they're not protected. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to protect the females. It's a source of liberation, a dignity and honor by Allah, and a continuous reward by Him Azza wa Jal. The curtain was there, and therefore Sayyidah Fatima, peace be upon her, when she reached Masjid al-Nabawi, she would stand behind the curtain, and the Ansar, the Muhajirin, the companions would be on the other side. Therefore, they would be able to hear the voice of this great lady. However, before she began